Hello, everybody. Welcome to yet another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. You know, we're always about themes, big themes, and one of the biggest themes since 2000 previously, and certainly for the rest of the century, is power. Big power, but also clean power, cheap power, renewable power, low-cost power. And one of those sources is uranium, and specifically Australian uranium. And we're very lucky today to be joined by Carl Popal of Eclipse Metals. And Carl's business focuses on Australian clean uranium power. With that introduction, and to tell us more about his business, the market itself, and what he sees going forward for the rest of the century, Carl, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Carl, everybody wants to know everybody's story. In just a couple of minutes, can you give us a brief background on yourself?
Well, thank you. My life story, say the last 25 years, besides being a public officer working for shareholders, I've primarily mainly been an entrepreneur setting up my own ventures. I grew up in the northern suburbs of Perth in Western Australia. From a young age, I was eager to be in my own business. As the youngest sibling in the family, I was encouraged initially to study medicine, but I couldn't do that. But I was more attracted to commercial trade, derivative style deals. My siblings, obviously, they turned out to be doctors and lawyers, but I took on the world of enterprise. I studied a couple of years of applied science. Subsequently, I couldn't fathom wearing a white coat, being in a lab, analyzing samples. So I then moved on to study business economics. I guess I've been trying to be in pursuit of knowledge that got me to where I am today. I've always been keeping my mind on the information causing the economic asymmetry that generally exists. Yeah, I mean, throughout my life, I've worked hard. I believe success only comes before work in a dictionary. Reality is sheer hard work. I've explored various sort of ventures during the last 25 years since 1995, mainly manufacturing, importing of various types of goods. I'll be dealing with various countries, primarily in Asia, Middle East, in Australia, Solomon Islands. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, I think what got me here is more about acquiring practical learning skills. I enjoyed that. I mean, I can elaborate more about all this, but I don't want to put you to sleep. Yeah,
that's great. And one of the areas, it sounds like that, since you're a knowledge seeker, if you will, one of the huge areas of I'd say education that we're going through right now is about power and clean power. It really is on the cutting edge of what the world wants and needs. And in your mind, can you just talk about, from a high level first, how do you see clean power, and then maybe drill down a little bit more into uranium?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Professor Wade Allison at Oxford University. I think he sums in his lectures clean energy or green energy very well. Look, I think I'm a big fan of green energy. I think we need to go towards cleaner energy. The world needs to, and at this current moment we're at, uranium is, or nuclear energy, should I say, is the only advanced technology that we have available that's zero emission. There is obviously other forms of renewable, arguably, that people may promote, such as solar and wind. Having said that, the issues I see with other forms of energy is obviously there's various different sort of challenges. With all nuclear seems to, obviously it's the fear, the confidence and trust is taken out of nuclear energy in my view. And that's purely because of fear. Reality is that nuclear has changed. What we've seen in Fukushima and Chernobyl, obviously Chernobyl was back at the era where the Russian economy was at the weakest. There was lack of maintenance, and secondly, the design, the technology was back from the 60s, and same applied with Fukushima. It was a technology, the engineering was all from 1960. So it's a bit like comparing a vehicle, a 1960 model vehicle, to a today where we've got 2020. Technology has changed, reactors have changed, and fossil fuel has proven that, well, I mean, I wouldn't say proven, but it's out there that everyone can see that fossil fuel is the culprit causing carbon emission. And solar panels, I mean, look, we've had hailstorms, severe hailstorms here in, I think it was 2013, and also in Queensland. I can't imagine relying on solar farms in those sort of circumstances. And secondly, base load is also important. I mean, wind, I mean, trying to hedge our bets based on what the wind is going to do or the sun's going to do. In the long run, I think it's probably not a wise thing. Nuclear, it's a small amount of fission can produce a lot more, and comparing it, say, with coal or other forms of energy, that amount of power that it's there, and energy needs to be harnessed, obviously, and if it's harnessed the right way, in the nuclear technology, especially the fourth and the fifth generation reactors, if it's harnessed the right way with modern science, it's the best form going forward.
Right. Interesting. And then also, I guess along that line, going into more now, turning to Eclipse, how does Eclipse fit into the mold of nuclear power?
We've got about 17 tenements in Northern Territory, and obviously Northern Territory is it's an area that has pretty much 96% of past production and about 96% of the resources, the deposits that are in Australia pretty much are in Northern Territory. We have the 17 tenements that we have. Negalia Basin, it's well known as prospective for uranium. In Alligator River's uranium province, which is contains the historical Narberlic, Ranger, Jabaluka uranium deposits. A world-class, some of the world-class deposits are all located in that particular area. So we hold these tenements in these particular area, which are highly prospective for uranium and precious metal mineralization.
Right. And okay. And where, as far as on a timeline, are we right now with your various tenements, and what should we be looking for, I suppose, over the next 12 to 24 months?
We've obviously the jewel in the crown for us is the Devil's Elbow tenements, right, in the Liverpool or in the Alligator Rivers uranium province. We've been working on this particular project for a number of years. One of the biggest challenges has been obviously land access. The Alligator Rivers uranium province is not Crown land, it's Aboriginal land. And in order to progress on any projects, you need to have the Aboriginal Land Agreement under the Act. In 2015, we got consent to negotiate with the traditional owners. Subsequent to that, we were approached by our neighbour, Rio Tinto, to do a joint venture. And we entered into a joint venture in 2016 with Rio Tinto. And they had a couple of years, obviously, to deal with the Aboriginal Land Right Agreement. They were to negotiate that. In 2018, we realised that actual land right agreement wasn't concluded on. We had an option to either extend or take the bull by the horns ourselves. So around about December 2018, I decided, okay, well, the best would be for us to pursue the negotiation with the traditional owners ourselves. So accordingly, the joint venture agreement was terminated. From January 2019, we worked vigorously with the traditional owners and the Northern Land Council. We fine-tuned all the terms of the actual agreement. We got that project consent to mine and explore on this particular area going forward. And we recently got that granted a few months ago.
Right. That's great. So, and obviously then I say that now that you have access, what are your upcoming plans then? Because there's no point without doing something.
Yeah, look, I mean, Cameco, the project was initially discovered by Euronets, with the German pedigree. Subsequently, I mean, they drilled it. The project produced very high grade uranium, gold, and palladium results. Subsequently, the project was sold to Cameco. Cameco had it from about 2001 to about 2009. They did a fair bit of high-tech exploration and geophysical drilling. And they had some conceptual targets which were more towards the south of the Ranger Fault. If you have a look at our tenement package, the Ranger Fault runs basically through the middle of the actual tenement package. Cameco was primarily focused, or they didn't have land access towards the south of Ranger Fault, so that primarily more of the actual drilling was done towards the north of Ranger Fault. We've got the north and the south, so we've looked at the areas. Obviously, one of the biggest challenges that we have, obviously, there's a lot of vegetation there. The old historical tracks from 2009 till now, it's not visible. Drilling obviously is our priority. We need to go out there and drill. But prior to that, there's a lot of prep work, which a lot of people don't understand. And especially it will be heli rigs that we'll be using, helicopter supported rigs. It's a little bit remote. We're about 60 kilometers away from the Ranger deposit where we're at. And what we're trying to do is obviously trying to see if we can establish some of those tracks. So if we can get vehicles into the ground, that'll cut our costs down by heaps. Alternatively, obviously, we have to use the normal method, which is the helicopter rigs. We do have the package more towards the south. We'll get a fair bit of access, and there are the potential. We've got a reconnaissance program due soon to have a look at these tracks, see if we can follow through, see if we can get vehicles in. That'll save a lot of time. So it is 17 walk-up targets, geophysical targets that we need to drill. There will be some deep holes that we'll be putting in there. We anticipate the program overall for us to drill could take a couple of seasons. West Arnhem Land is a bit of a tricky one also. It's in that particular area, all projects only accessible a certain time of the year during dry season. Right. During wet season, it's almost impossible to work at. So we've got a few challenges to sort of work around, and also time-wise, there's no point mobilizing a big drill program if it's only a short period of time for us to work in that area. So we're working on that, but in the meanwhile, obviously, we've got the Manganese Project. So in the short run, we've got working on that. We've got a drill program due next month. We'll be drilling that.
Yeah, so maybe that's a great segue into the Manganese Project. Maybe you want to discuss it a little bit, because it sounds like obviously like there is going to be some news coming up on that imminently.
Yeah, look, we've got the Manganese Project is really good. It's has been mined historically. It has the Amamore has produced about 51% manganese historically. The old timers, they pretty much picked whatever they could see with their naked eye from the surface. It's my understanding that they've used that for battery manufacturing out of New South Wales. That's during the 40s and 50s. Subsequent, obviously, manufacturing sort of stopped in Australia. Most of the batteries were produced overseas. So the mine wasn't really paid attention to. We've had it for since 2010, and we've done some reconnaissance programs on it. And there's a lot of vegetation. It's exotic weeds that's covering the Amamore hills. Most of the outcrops are all sort of like covered with this vegetation, and we've done geophysical work, and we've done our first stage drilling, which produced very high grade manganese. So the second second stage drill program is primarily designed to work out the extent and the depth of the actual mineralization. And it's quite a unique type of manganese. I'm not sure if you know much about manganese mineralization. There's different types, but this particular manganese type that we have, we've done the petrophysical work and the bulk sampling. It's ideal for various different sort of application. Obviously, not just as an alloy, as ferroalloy for steel, but also for battery manufacturing. It's just ideal properties, the chemical structures for it. And the grade is there, obviously, it's very high grade. So we're fortunate with that.
Fantastic, fantastic. And then obviously all these drilling programs and exploration work, it all costs money, as you're well aware. Just give us just a quick overview of where the balance sheet is at this point, and what's up and coming for us.
We've got it. Look, we run things very, very tight on a budget. We try to obviously watch our dollars when we progress on some of these projects. And that should be adequate enough to pursue the manganese drilling. The good thing about the Murray Valley Manganese Project is it's only about 15 kilometres or so from the town of Gympie, which is 30,000 people. So infrastructure is all there. Secondly, it's just off the Bruce Highway. So overall, getting in and out is not that expensive. Mobilisation of the drill program is not so bad, and demobilisation. And what we would like to do, I think, obviously, we will most likely go forward towards raising more money. But at this current stage where we're at, I think there's adequate funds to facilitate this particular program.
Yeah. Well, Carl, these interviews are sharp, I should say. And obviously we have, uranium, which is certainly your flagship business, if you will. But the manganese, is perhaps more on the immediacy, if you will. But it's very exciting that you kind of have a short-term target, if you will, and a longer-term target, so to speak, in a simplistic mannerism to say it. Carl, with that, I appreciate your time. Are any final words that you just wanted to say to the audience?
No, I think, I'll back up your words. You're right. Look, uranium is our flagship. We do have some superb uranium in Northern Territory. The manganese also, look, Eclipse has been primarily, we've been harnessing these projects, focusing on the green energy side. So the manganese, obviously, it's playing a huge role going forward also for battery, towards green energy. battery manufacturing and all that. And uranium obviously is, and vanadium and palladium. We have very high grade palladium in our Devil's Elbow. Palladium is obviously for the catalytic converters. It's an ideal metal. Yeah, we're fortunate, and yeah, look forward to releasing some positive news out there to expand on the exploration results that we've been delineating.
Great. Carl, thank you very much for your time. Please stay in touch.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.